Welcome to the Views Unfolded podcast, episode 6. Today I'm watching the sunset in a Swedish forest here in Gothenburg as we talk about letting go of control and embracing flow. In previous episodes, we've talked about the uncertainties of life and how to deal with the changes that we face. But today I want to dive deeper into the urge to control an outcome, even when we cannot do so. It's not easy to just let go of control and let things flow in life and just say it is what it is. Because we often fear that we might not be taking the right steps or we might not be doing enough for something to happen in the way that we think it's supposed to happen. So then we start going the extra mile, pushing into a narrative that we believe is the only way to go. We want it so badly that we forget why and if we even need it that much. Sometimes we even try to make something happen multiple times, and it never turns out the way that we wanted it to. So then, somewhere inside of us, it becomes like a challenge. You convince yourself that you have to accomplish it, or else you're a failure. It's then difficult to stop and realize that maybe that thing you're fighting so many battles for is simply the wrong thing, or is not meant to happen right in this moment. And being wrong is not something that we as humans enjoy very much. But at the end of the day, maybe we need to learn to be good losers as much as we're good winners. But then again, are we really losing, or are we just temporarily not realizing that this is a future win for us? Meaning, oftenly things happen to us that we think are bad, but further down the line we realize that it happened for us, not to us, and something better was able to happen because that didn't. Let's take relationships as an example, as I think this is the most common theme for most people, and most of us have experienced this at some point in our life. You get interested in someone and perhaps even fall in love, but somewhere down the line, it's not working out, not the way that you wanted it to. Circumstances change, and all of a sudden, you're not together anymore. Now, how we tend to react is that we try to fix it, we try to fight for it. We go back and forth trying to make it what it once was. Then it always somehow gets worse because it becomes a battle for you and you're trying to win something that clearly isn't working right now. Meaning you're trying so hard to control the narrative and the outcome of this relationship. But what if we stopped and think that this is most likely happening for us rather than to us? What if you're being protected from years of misery with that person? Or what if there is something much, much better awaiting you, and here you are, stuck at trying to make this situation happen? Then you just keep feeding into a bad situation, going in circles, and at the end of the day, you're just hurting yourself and making yourself exhausted when you could have skipped half of that pain by just accepting what is right now. Yes, maybe you are meant to be with that person in the end, but perhaps right now is simply not the right time. Perhaps you're being forced to focus on yourself during this time of separation. And instead of doing that, you're trying to control the time and when the happy ending happens. But you can't. So then all you do is prolong the process, you prolong the time that you were meant to end up with them, and so on. All that you can truly control is your inner world and how you react to things in life. You cannot control the time frame or the outcome, no matter how hard you try. And going back to the right time for things to happen, this is, I would say, the most important aspect of being able to let go of control. Some things are simply not meant to happen right now, and we have to trust that if it is meant for us, it will happen at the exact right time. And the thing here is that we don't really have a concept for when the right timing is. But once something does happen, we realize that it was indeed the right time at that point, even if we ourselves didn't know so. Even if we thought it was the worst timing ever, or even if we thought that something has to happen right now because it's the right time, we truly don't have a concept for when is right and when is wrong until it happens at the exact right moment. So that means that we don't know what the right and the wrong time is for something. And we must trust that it will play out by itself. And only when we truly and really let go of control and the need to know is when things usually start to pan themselves out. We interfere so much with the process when we try to take things into our own hands rather than going with the flow. We prolong things, we extend our suffering, and we often make things worse than they already were. The thing is, we don't even feel good doing it. It just feels like a constant, exhausting battle, whereas letting go, trusting, and accepting feels peaceful. Sometimes the reality is that we do have to fight for some things to happen. But when are we genuinely fighting for something? And when are we forcing it? We often tell ourselves that we're fighting for something, making it feel justified so that we don't question our actions. But more often than not, we're actually forcing things to go a certain way, trying to control the outcome. So, how do we know the difference, especially when we might even be tricking ourselves? I think that fighting for something means stepping into a situation that challenges us and taking inspired action to create the changes that we need. It's about aligning with what truly feels right in the moment, letting our passions guide us, and trusting the journey, even if we can't control every detail. We're not attached to a specific outcome, but instead we focus on the journey itself and the steps we feel genuinely inspired to take. Forcing, on the other hand, feels different. It comes from a place of attachment, of needing things to happen in a certain way. It's often driven by fear, frustration, or the desire to control every outcome. When we're forcing, we're bound to a specific result, and we lose the openness to let things go or accept them as they come. This can also become challenging when we've experienced injustice and we're fighting for justice. In these moments, we feel an even stronger need to stand up for ourselves, to pay back in some way. But this can quickly become exhausting, especially when we're trying to force justice rather than truly fighting for it, as we established. So, here we can apply the same principle. by being mindful of when we're trying to control the outcome versus standing up for what's right with a sense of trust. We just have to believe that as life flows, so does justice, so does the best outcome, as long as we just let it happen. Trusting is also a very hard thing to achieve because we're afraid that if we do trust, maybe the things that we wanted so badly to happen don't happen. But isn't that what trust is about? Believing that perhaps the things that we want to happen aren't the best things for us. And when we trust something, we trust for it to pan out in the best way possible. So, therefore, we shouldn't be attached to how we want things to be or when we want them to be. We just need to accept the present moment that we're in. And once we do that, our energy also becomes more opened and you become more open to receiving. And why would you want to receive something that isn't the best outcome, even if you so strongly believed it was the best one? Maybe it's really not. And if it is, then trusting that it will happen also makes you get out of your own way because we oftenly stand in our own way. We give off this energy of maybe desperation. We want it so badly. We have to have it. We have to have it right now. But then we're just blocking stuff. We're not letting it flow into our lives. So, how about we just let things flow naturally and believe and again trust that it will work itself out and that you will be guided through every step and every inspired action that you need to take. You don't have to stress on taking an action if it doesn't truly sit well with you, if it doesn't feel good inside of your stomach, if it doesn't feel good with your intuition, then why are you forcing it? It all comes down to control and the need and the want of things. So then we have to practice letting go and accepting things for what they are. Letting go of control and embracing flow can be the most challenging things to achieve within yourself. But it's also what brings you the greatest sense of ease and freedom to your life. When we release the need to control outcomes, we create space for things to unfold naturally without the weight of expectations or constant worry. So, how do we achieve this in the best way possible? I'd say it begins with practicing being in the present moment and realizing that the only thing you truly have is the now. By grounding yourself in the present, you start to detach from worries about the future, and regrets about the past. When you focus on what's directly in front of you, you open yourself up to life as it is, trusting that things are happening in the right way, in the right time, even if they don't align perfectly with your own plans or perception of what is the right thing or the right time. I think it's a process of surrendering, where you learn to let go of the shoulds and the expectations that create tension in your life. Instead, you tune into your intuition and you take each step with intention and inspired action. And you allow life to guide you. The more we practice this, the more we realize that life flows more easily when we're not resisting it. And in that flow, we often find exactly what we need rather than what you thought you needed. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. And as always, please share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for next week's episode.